personally am getting a lot out of this series on leadership. And if y'all hear a bunch of banging, I've got a dump truck in my front yard. Can y'all hear that or no? Mm-hmm. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I'm pumped about this leadership series. So go ahead and start recording. Oh, you got us recording already. All right. So today's topic is communication. And I read this book about 18 years ago, and I'm enjoying pulling it back out and reading it again today. So today it's on communication, and I'm going to read a little bit, a paragraph, and then we're going to kind of talk about an incredible communicator. It says, many American presidents have made an impact on our country as great communicators. John F. Kennedy, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln come to mind of outstanding examples. But only one president in our lifetime was called the great communicator. Does anybody know who it was? I only see about 4 or 5 of you. So if anyone knows who it is, go ahead and say it. See if anyone can get it.
Is it Reagan?
Yep. The great communicator, and that was Ronald Reagan. And as soon as I read that, we're probably telling our age. We know at least for Riley. But as I start thinking about, can I remember some of the things that Ronald Reagan said? And suddenly things start coming to mind. The first thing that came to mind, y'all remember Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
Yeah.
The next thing that came to my mind was his statement at I think it was, let's see, I wrote it down, the 1984 presidential debate when they were pushing him about him being 73. And he said, I won't exploit my opponent's youth and inexperience. And that got just a huge, the whole audience just started laughing. But in this book, it talks about, and I didn't remember this, or maybe I didn't know it. It was in 1981 when he was shot. They were rushing him into surgery. And they said he looked up to the surgeons and said, please assure me, fellows, that you all are Republicans before you work on me. And, when I think of these statements and when I can hear his voice in my head, and here's what I loved about him. He was strong. He was swift action. He was a man's man. I always think about him. I don't know if he ever played it. I think he did play in some Westerns. He was such a strong person, but if you hear his voice, he was always very kind with what he had to say. It was very strong, but it was always kind. Just like when he said that to Gorbachev, which was a place in history, that totally just dampened the whole Communist Party when that wall came down. But he was like Mr. Gorbachev, he was still kind, he was still respectful, and he had a wit about him. And I just thought, as I started thinking of Ronald Reagan, my heart warmed up. Even though everyone didn't agree with him, it was politics back then were respectful. They agreed to disagree, but you also saw that he won people over. And I really believe it was because of his communication skills. And when I think about the communicator that he was, it's like, what can I learn from Ronald Reagan? The last part of this chapter said, communication made him the kind of leader that people wanted to follow. And that begs me to ask myself, am I the leader people want to follow? And how I communicate, is it a way that people respond? And let's all ask ourselves, let's kind of challenge ourselves. One, am I a leader? And how do I communicate with others? And do I do it in a way that people want to follow me? And so we're going to talk about 4 areas, on this whole topic of leadership, 4 areas that will help us in our communication in regard to being a leader. And the first one is, we've got to have a message that's simple. Have you ever been talking to someone and they just start rattling on, and then it's like you finally look at them and think, I have no idea what you're even saying, because they don't know how to simplify their message. How can we shut our message down? Just like kind of going back to those few lines that President Reagan had. They were short and they were right to the point. And so we remember them. So when you think about, number one, simplify our message. How can we simplify our message? In the book, it says Napoleon Bonaparte said to his secretaries, be clear, be clear, be clear. That's all he kept saying. And so kind of between Reagan and Bonaparte, I'm like, the two things that come to my mind is be kind and be clear. And probably one more is be confident. Maybe the 3 C's, even though kind begins with K. Be kind, be clear, and be confident. And that's kind of when I think of Reagan. He was very clear. It was short and to the point. He was kind, but boy, he carried so much confidence. So let's come across kind, confident, and clear with our message and simplify our message. The second thing, and well, let me jump over here. One of the things that I thought about is if you guys don't have this kind of in a plastic sleeve or laminated near your phone or near your computer, I'm going to challenge you guys to print this off, and I'll post it under the post of this call today. But you know, remember a couple years ago, we went through that whole series of really honing in on our verbiage by solidifying our tagline. Juice Plus is 30 raw fruits and vegetables and berries packed at the peak of ripeness. And then juiced at a low temperature is not to harm the nutrients. Then they remove the salt, the water, and sugar, leaving only the micronutrients. Those plant powders are then put in capsule and gummy form. It's kind of concise. It's our tagline. You know, tell what it is. Juice Plus is whole food. It's bioavailable. It's NSF certified. Tell what it isn't. Juice Plus is not a synthetic isolated vitamin or mineral supplement. Tell why Juice Plus is unique. You know, it's whole food. We give away a free product. You know, learn these taglines, these points, these core themes of our product so that when we come across, we're going to come across clear and confident. And then if we're clear and confident, naturally, because we know what we want to say, we can bring on that kindness and bring out our personality. So that just really came to mind when I was thinking about making sure we simplify our message. The next point is see the person. There are certain people, and see if someone doesn't come to mind. When I talk to them, I feel like they're talking right through me. It's their agenda. It's how they're coming across, making sure they look good, they sound good. And it has nothing to do with me. Am I the only one, or do you have someone coming to mind right now that that's how you feel, that they're looking straight through you? We got to be able to see the people, and not only that we see them for who they are, but they know that we see them. It says here, they know it is impossible to, effective communicators focus on the people with whom they're communicating. They know it is impossible to effectively communicate to an audience without knowing something about them. So before we make that phone call, before we meet that person for coffee, before we do a Zoom call with that specific person, and I don't know, I can't see everyone on here. I don't know if Miracle's on here, but Miracle Golden is excellent at this. When she usually does a call with a brand new partner, and then when she wants me to do a call with them and introduce them to me, she will literally send me a sheet telling me all about that person. And I don't know, is Miracle on here? I can't see her. I only see a few. She's not on here. Well, I love that about her, that she's very intentional. So here's the questions, and I'll post this too, that we wanted to ask ourselves. Who is my audience? You know, I say it all the time. You don't want to be dancing with someone. They're doing the waltz and you're doing the tango, because you're going to feel really silly. And when we try to talk to someone and we haven't gone through these questions, we've not done this mental exercise ahead of time, we're really missing out because that person's not going to feel us really seeing them. So who is my audience? How do I need to address them? How can I appeal to them? What is it that they're feeling? Then the second thing, what are their questions that maybe they won't ask me? Can I ask them? One, to get them talking and get feedback, but also for them to see that I care about what their opinion is. If you want someone to get on your side, ask them questions, because then they know you really do care about them. Then number three, what needs to be accomplished? What am I trying to accomplish here? Have you ever had a conversation with someone and you feel like they're taking you all on a rabbit trail, and then you finish and you're like, what were they even wanting to accomplish? You're like, were they afraid to ask me something? That's frustrating. So we need to know, what is it I'm trying to accomplish with this person? And then four, how much time do I need or do I have? And that's one of the first things when I make a phone call. You know, I'm looking at Sandy Thompson right now. Sandy, hey, do you have a couple minutes? I got a couple questions for you. That way I know, you know, what I don't want is to jump into a conversation. I hear it in their voice. They got to go somewhere. So being respectful like that, it shows that you care, you're looking at them and they matter to you. So make sure that when we're communicating, we're really seeing that person, and those four questions we walk through. The third thing, show the truth. And when I think about that, one of my daughters is all about authenticity. Man, it just chaps her hide when someone is not being authentic with her. And we all feel that. We all know that when we're not really being authentic, or maybe when we're trying to portray ourselves in a certain way. What's that telling us? That what's in our mind is we're thinking about ourselves and not that other person. And people will feel that and pick up on that quicker than anything. So let me share a couple of sentences out of this portion where it's talking about show the truth. It says, first, believe in what you say. Ordinary people become extraordinary communicators when they are fired up with conviction. Don't you love it when you talk to someone and they are fired up about whatever it is they're talking about? You know, they could be selling widgets and you'd want to buy some because they believe in it that much. So think about it when you reach out to someone, are you reaching and are you talking with conviction? You get so fired up, you can't wait to tell them what you just learned. New information. I just listened yesterday on my walk, and I'm going to post it on Team Extreme. It was on Eric Worre's GoPro podcast. This girl was so good. And what she had to share, I'm going to go back and listen to it again. If you want to get conviction and be fired up and come across with that credibility, feed your soul with things that are going to motivate and encourage you and get you fired up about something. When you call and you're like, hey, I'm just checking, do you need more Juice Plus? No, they don't want any more Juice Plus. But if you call and say, oh my gosh, I just listened to Dr. Richard Du Bois. Here's what he had to say about the omegas. You're not on the omegas yet, are you? Oh my gosh, you guys have to try them. Here's what he was saying. You know, that's a big difference than, oh my gosh, I got to call. I got to make customer phone follow-up calls. People sense that, feel that, and that's that credibility of who you are and what you believe in is going to come through. And then the second thing, so two things. One is be fired up with conviction. And then secondly, live what you say. There is no greater credibility than conviction in action. Are we living out the message of Juice Plus? And I'm the first to tell you, I can fall off the bandwagon quicker than anybody, but use Juice Plus to get you back on the bandwagon if you fall off like me. Because I keep saying to myself, I can't be challenging other people to do what I'm not personally doing. And so turning our conviction into action will communicate credibility without ever having to say a word. And then lastly, seek a response. When I think about seeking a response, it comes back to action as well. This whole paragraph talked about action. It says, as a communicator, never forget that the goal of communication is action. So if we're communicating with someone, we want to make sure what we're communicating will produce an action in them. So on point number 3, it's more about being authentic and us being in action. Number 4 is whatever we're communicating, we want to inspire in such a way that people will act upon what we're communicating. And they gave 3 points here. I should have made a slide for it because it's really good. It said, every time you speak to people, give them something to feel. How are they feeling when they walk away from you? Oh my gosh. And I'm looking at Aaron's face right now. Aaron, you never walk away from Aaron Lemmy without feeling loved, excited. You know what? I think I feel her heart. It's like her heart comes through every time she talks to you. And if you know Aaron, you know what I'm saying is so true. So I would definitely have to say when you talk to Aaron, you walk away with a feeling. For sure. So it says every time you speak to people, give them something to feel or give them something to remember. And think about people who, when you're with them, you walk away and you remember them. Who's coming to mind? Right now, Mark, I wasn't going to talk about him. Mark Conklin is a customer of mine. Every time I'm with him, I walk away. And what I remember is he's always digging deep, growing personally, learning more. He always has a book to share with me. He always has somebody he's just talked to. He always gives me a nugget to remember. And I always feel like I'm just a little bit smarter every time after I've talked to Mark Conklin. And he has his PhD, so obviously he's an educator. But these 3 points really got me thinking. When people walk away from me, you know who else just came to mind is Katherine Lee. Those of you who know the NMD Katherine Lee. She never wastes any words. She is an incredible communicator. So every time you speak to people, give them something to feel, something to remember, or something to do. Who challenges you? I think of my pastor, Andy Stanley. You always walk out of church thinking, never guilt, but always, wow, I got to get on the ball. I need to make some changes. I need to do this. I need to do that. The 3 people I just mentioned, I didn't even ask myself, I wasn't even going to talk about them. But when I mentioned the feel, the remember, and the doer, what to do, those 3 people came to mind. So as a leader, what do you want people to feel when they walk away from you? When you talk to your customer, when you talk to one of your team members, when you talk to a prospect, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to remember about that conversation? And what do you want them to walk away doing? That, to me, if we hone in on this and kind of bore this stuff in our brain, we can't help but to become better communicators. And I'm going to turn this over to Brenda now. She's got a couple of good communicators that are just going to share some thoughts with you that are on our team. We got a lot of good communicators on our team. But just like the 3 that popped in my head, these two popped in both Brenda in my head as we were talking about our call today. And so if you guys will get calls from time to time because we want to hear from the team. And so Brenda, I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, well, first of all, that was amazing training. Something, it just spoke to me in so many levels. And just like you said, as we were talking about this yesterday, the two people that both of us came up with immediately in terms of these incredible leaders who inspire us, that we admire, and their personalities just take you in. And they certainly excel at community and at communicating our message. And so when I spoke to them, it's just so amazing. When I called Allison, I got to talk to Allison first, and Allison Hodges is somebody I admire so much. And I got off a call with her last night, which we haven't really done that much, have we? You and I together. But I was telling Elaine this morning, I felt so cared about when I got off, and we were talking about our families and that kind of thing, and it just meant the world to me. And so I'm excited for you to hear from Allison. Just that a friend of mine talked about, after being with his wife, he came away with quiet love, and that's what I felt after I talked with Allison last night, and I know you're going to feel that today. And then Erin just takes you in. I mean, talk about feeling. I've always said that my image of Erin instantly is this. She's just coming at you and you're just going to be wrapped up in love. So these are both people I want to emulate, along with, of course, Elaine in everything. You always make me feel that way. But I think each one of you, it's because of our personalities that we need each other. And so I'm so excited to have them share with you. So Allison, if you would go first, and then Erin, we can't wait to hear your message. And I know that we're all going to be blessed.
Thank you, Brenda. You're so sweet. Well, the simple message, I was going to focus on that, and I got tickled because I am embarrassed of thinking of conversations early on in the business where I regurgitated so much information that I know people were probably put me on mute. And so I have definitely learned to keep it simple. And obviously you're going to, the simple message you give depends on who you're talking to. Like if they've never heard of Juice Plus before, it's really just enough to say that it's 30 and vegetables and berries or capsules. I mean, that just keeps it so simple. If it's someone who's heard of Juice Plus before, I keep it simple, but I'm going to maybe add that we're a very health conscious family. And even being that way, even on our best days, we cannot get the number of servings that's recommended. We can't get a wide variety. And Juice Plus just fills that gap in a doable way. And then Elaine touched on seeing people. And I really make an effort to tailor my message to the particular person I'm talking with. So Elaine has shared before about how we should have several versions of our story. And they're all our story and they're all true, but we're going to share that version that relates best to the person we're talking with. So for instance, if I'm talking with a mom with younger children who's frustrated that they're not eating well, I'm probably going to share about my grandson right now that's 20 months and is starting to turn his nose up for, whenever I try to feed him lunch, but how he loves shakes. And I can throw that spinach in and some organic fruit and all the plants that are in our shake mix, how that's so easable, how he loves the gummies. And I literally have to say no more. So if I'm talking with someone my age, I'm going to focus on the omegas and the joints and the just the brain, how good nutrition is good for our mental health. I'm going to focus on skin, all the things that older people are definitely thinking about. But also even more of just tailoring that, I really want to find out what's going on in their lives, because Elaine says we all have talked to people who see right through us. And it's terrible when you've shared something heartfelt with someone and then they circle back around with you and never even say, oh, how was so and so? They don't ask about the thing that was going on. So I do usually remember, but I also keep notes like on Teamsy or on your virtual office, on your address book or wherever you keep your notes, something specific they've shared with me that's going on in their life, so that when I do turn around to follow up, I'm going to say, and has your, your daughter that was having twins, or have they been born? Are they healthy? That kind of thing. Short and concise is also something. I remember Elaine said, if your email, I used to send her emails, how does this sound before I send this off? And she would say, oh, it's great, but cut it in half. And she said, if you cannot read it from your mailbox to the front door, it's too long. And that's really helped me. So when I draft a text or an email, I usually go back and start chopping out the extra information. And then lastly, I did a webinar years ago where he was saying that we should act as a consultant. And that was huge for me, because we've all walked up to a makeup counter and you're looking at all the different shades, all the different products. And isn't it nice when someone says, well, could I make a recommendation? And then they tell you, based on your skin tone or your color of eyes, I think this would be beautiful on you. It just helps. And so just a quick example on how that worked for me. And it's worked a lot, but my sister-in-law texted me years ago and said her mother was struggling with fibromyalgia and diverticulitis, and she wanted to order the shakes for her mom. So I texted back and said, great, well, could I make a recommendation? And she said, sure. And I said, I cannot recommend enough our trio, because the root of what your mom's dealing with is inflammation. And our study shows that Juice Plus reduces inflammation. So I gave a sentence about that, and she immediately turned around and said, okay, great. Would you order the trio and the shakes? So just not being fearful of asking, could I make a recommendation? And they're always going to say, sure. So anyway, hope that helps. I have definitely learned a lot and grown, and I'm still growing in the area of communicating effectively.
Incredible.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to share just kind of about tailoring your message to people's needs too. And just realizing, I loved when so many of our leaders have talked about like listening for the pain in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And so something that I think is profound about Juice Plus is that it really hits on all cylinders of people's pain, right? So for instance, let me just tell you this quick story. Yesterday, our children's pastor, Beth, I said, I really start, especially when I know they haven't been feeling well. How are you feeling? She said, I'm so frustrated. They had like a month and a half of COVID a couple months ago. And then they just had 3 weeks of cold. And now her husband's waking up. And she's hurting and her joints are aching, and she's talking about all her arthritis and stuff like that. And I just said, I just had a friend, just met this lady, and she is 70 and her arthritis has like just completely minimized. Would you be willing to take a look at Juice Plus? And it was just really fun to so she says first, well, how much is it? Well, I'd like for you to consider the $75 a month, because that has the fruit, vegetables, and berry. Can I tell you my story? And I just talked a little bit about how my joint pain has decreased when I take the trio, and when I don't take the trio, I really notice a difference. And but then the big things that I asked is, Beth, what if this could really help you to not feel so sick and feel so much pain? And I just stopped, and she goes, that would be phenomenal. And what I've been ending with a lot lately is, and what I said to her is, listen, you have way too much stuff to do in the kingdom to be sick. We need you. And I think that I'm hoping at least that hit home with her about realizing, like, my sickness is starting to rule my life rather than like my calling ruling my life. And so I've just been super passionate about that. But some other areas of pain to just be listening for product wise is, our mamas complaining about not being able to feed their kids. And I love being able to say, I feel like I'm mom of the year because I get to feed my kids every day, 30 fruits, vegetables, and berries. And with the trainers that I've been working with that have been with my class, I've been using that same thing. Listen, you're working out 2 to 3 hours a day. And I know that that you might be taking some other supplements, but what fruits and veggies are you taking? Because you need to be eating 16 to 18. And they go, what? 16 to 18 if you're working out 90 minutes or more. And girl, you gotta keep doing this because you're my favorite instructor. Can I show you a quick and easy way to do that? So those are just some things off the top of my head that I'm thinking of product wise, but also be listening about people that are lonely. Guys, we have such an incredible opportunity as a community. You light up my life every Mondays at 12:30. I get so excited to see your faces. And I know that you're for me. You're for me like to root me on. You're for me if I need prayer. And we've done that for each other. And not everybody has this. We have a very special, amazing community. So be listening for that and just say, I don't know if this would be for you, but I have an incredible community where we get to share health and watch people's lives change. Would you want to be part of that with me? So that's something financially, just asking like, and I do have to say, I'm always like, now this is a slow and steady build, and maybe I shouldn't be saying that because you can really do phenomenally if you work your butt off. But I do just say, listen, would you love to change your health? I've seen it change so many people's health, my clients especially. I see the research come alive in my clients. So what the research says, I see happen in people. And would you want to join us because everybody needs more fruits and veggies, And then would you want to replace, like I just had one of my customers just came on as a partner and they want to start eating more Juice Plus because they're seeing a benefit and they can't afford to do that. So she's come on and it's been awesome, So just saying, okay, let's try to we need about 8 customers to pay for your order and David's order. Let's do this. And it's been motivating for her because she can just earn some extra income. So even just earning, like, I love talking to moms and just saying, this is such a great way to earn some extra income and feel like you have something that's yours. That's a big deal to have something beyond just like feeling like it's boobs and butts and pee and poop all day long. So it's a big deal just to have that other purpose. So be watching for pain, like physical pain, for financial pain, for loneliness, and for need for a community. And then also the other thing is for professional and personal development. And I love it, guys. We have grown so much together, right? And people need that and want that and long to have community where somebody will be with them and kick their butt if they need to. So let's offer that. We have such a great gift.
Wow.
And I think that's it. Bren, is that it? Is that what you wanted me to share?
Gorgeous. It was perfect. And Allison, just thank you too. I mean, really, we couldn't, just fleshing out so many incredible statements, so many ideas. And you're right that whatever the situation is, we do have an answer. And I think just having someone care about you, and that's what you feel like. Didn't that come across from both of them? And it always does, doesn't it? So thank you so much for sharing.
Can I say something? I know you're going to go into another topic, but one thing that really Allison said, and by the way, both of y'all, so good. What you had to share, I love it. It just backed up what that chapter, you guys flushed out that chapter all the more. But one thing I wanted to mention that Allison said about literally, could I make a recommendation? And the same thing, Erin, throughout the whole thing, you were saying, would you be willing? What if? What came to mind is there is a difference between a coach and a consultant. My husband is a professional coach. He went through all the 2-year process to become a professional coach. But his job is a consultant. And I remember having a conversation not long ago, and I'm like, can you tell me the difference between a coach and a consultant? And he said, and I'm going to go back and push him again, but if I remember correctly, he said, so a coach takes somebody who's doing good in the middle of the game and challenging them to do better, cheering them on, locking arms with this. You can do this. We've got 2 points, we got to make 2 points or whatever it is. It's challenging them and looking to the future with them. A consultant digs down in and says, here's some areas we need to fix. Here's some areas we want to work. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we make a shift here? And I think so many times people are looking for us to be a consultant and we are coaching them. Yeah, let's get healthy. Let's get good. Buy your Juice Plus. Versus what I heard Allison just make the comment. And then you kind of alluded to it too, Aaron, both of you did, is putting on, there's nothing wrong with being a great coach, but being able to make that call when someone needs a consultant. Here's what you need. Here's why I think you need it. Here's what I'd recommend. Are you open for a recommendation? People need to hear our confidence come through when we're talking to them. They don't know. We know what the trio does. We know what this one does, what that does, what the omegas, what the complete. We get it. They don't get that. They need us to say, now that I've heard your situation, here's where I'd start and here's why. Could I make a recommendation? I'm telling you what, guys, that can make the difference between someone ordering now. I think that's probably why people drag their feet sometimes. And you're like, they said they wanted it, but they're not ordering. I think they don't quite know what they want because we haven't been the consultant to tell them, here's where you need to start. I'm sorry. That really impressed on me when I heard them both talking.
And don't apologize. That's absolutely perfect. And I remember, a long time ago, early on, Elaine, where I was saying, well, I'm not sure how to say this or whatever. And she said, Brenda, no matter what, you still know more about Juice Plus than they do. So, come at it with that confidence because it really is true. I mean, I'm bulletproof when it comes to Juice Plus. Mm-hmm. But so no matter what, even talking to anybody, it doesn't matter what stage that you're in, you still know more because obviously you know the value of it. So, and both of you, I mean, all three of you, it was an amazing call. It's just been so powerful and so many things to take away and really to flesh out because we all want to be the best version of ourselves and we all have a big mission. I think the whole emphasis is that it's on them. We're about serving them. This isn't about, growing my particular paycheck, right? It's being of service. So, wow. Thank you so much. Want me to go ahead and stop the recording first?
Mm-hmm.